Okay, so you want to own a water park. You've driven past one of these places on a summer Saturday. The parking lot is full. The line at the ticket window stretches around the corner. Families are walking in carrying towels and sunscreen, and every single one of them is about to spend money on tickets, on food, on lockers, on parking, on frozen lemonade that cost $8 and contains roughly 40 cents of actual lemon. You look at that scene and you think, that is a machine that prints money. And you're not wrong. During a perfect summer weekend, a well-run regional water park in the United States can pull in $200,000 in a single day. Some of the bigger ones do more than that. The parking lot alone, at $20 a car, is generating thousands of dollars an hour by itself. The wave pool doesn't cost a ticket to use once you're inside. The lazy river doesn't care how many people float around it. Scale the guest count up, and the same infrastructure just keeps multiplying revenue. So the setup sounds obvious. Build it, fill it with water, and let the summer do the rest. Here's the question nobody asks at that point in the conversation. If this business is so straightforward, why does the industry have a long and consistent history of parks going bankrupt, closing permanently, or changing hands under financial distress? Why did Apex Parks Group, which owned a collection of regional water parks and family entertainment centers across the United States, file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy? Why did Schlitterbahn, a multi-generational family operation that had been running water parks since the 1970s, end up dismantling its most famous ride and selling off properties? The answer is not that water parks are a bad business. The answer is that they are one of the most demanding, most capital-intensive, and most operationally complicated seasonal businesses in the entire entertainment industry. And the gap between what a water park looks like on the outside and what it actually costs to keep one running is enormous. Let's start at the beginning. Before a single guest walks through the turnstile, you have already spent somewhere between $20 million and $250 million. That is not a typo. A modest regional outdoor water park on 15 to 20 acres in a suburban American market will cost somewhere in the range of $20 million to $50 million to develop from the ground up. A major destination park, the kind with a wave pool the size of a football field, multi-story slide towers, and enough rides to fill a full day, can reach $100 million or more before it opens. Let's walk through where that money goes. First, the land. In suburban corridors near major population centers, where you actually need to be to draw families, land costs between $1.5 million and $3 million per acre. A 20-acre park already means you're looking at $30 to $60 million just for the dirt before anyone picks up a shovel. Then comes site preparation, clearing, grading, soil stabilization, and deep foundation work to support the weight of massive concrete pools and multi-story steel slide towers. That's another $5 to $15 million before a single attraction is installed. Now for the actual rides, the signature attractions, the ones that end up in the commercials, the ones families drive 2 hours to experience, cost between $4 million and $10 million each. A single high-tech water coaster from a manufacturer like ProSlide Technology or Whitewater West, two of the biggest names in the industry, can run $6 to $8 million installed. A wave pool capable of generating consistent 6-foot waves across a surface area large enough to accommodate several hundred guests simultaneously costs $3 to $6 million to engineer and construct. A lazy river, which is essentially a concrete channel filled with circulating water, one of the simplest features in the park, still runs $2 to $4 million depending on length and the engineering of its pump systems. Underneath all of this, before you can run a single drop of water, you are building what amounts to a small water treatment plant, miles of underground piping, industrial pumps, filtration systems, chemical dosing equipment, surge tanks buried beneath the decks to catch overflow. The hydraulic infrastructure alone adds $4 to $10 million to your total cost. Then there are what developers call soft costs: architectural design, engineering fees, environmental impact studies, legal permits, and the regulatory approval processes that can take years in some jurisdictions. Add a contingency buffer of 10 to 15% for the cost overruns that are essentially guaranteed in a project of this complexity. When you add all of it up, a mid-sized outdoor water park in the United States carries an average startup cost of around $50 million. And because no single investor writes a $50 million check for a seasonal business out of their personal checking account, the vast majority of water park developments are built on borrowed money. Lenders typically require owners to put up 25 to 40% as equity, meaning 60 to 75% of the total cost is financed through debt. The debt starts accruing interest from the day you draw it down, which means the park opens its gates on day one already carrying a fixed financial obligation that has to be met every single month. Rain, shine, or cold snap. Now let's talk about what's running underneath your feet while you're standing in line for the wave pool. Guests see slides, owners see pipes. A commercial water park is fundamentally a continuous circulation water processing facility that also happens to have giant plastic tubes coming out of the top. Beneath the concrete decking is a network of high-capacity pipes, some of them 3 feet in diameter, stretching the entire footprint of the park, connecting every pool, every splash basin, and every slide landing to a central mechanical facility. That facility runs 24 hours a day, not just during operating hours. Here's why. The moment you let the public into a water park, you have tens of thousands of gallons of water being contaminated continuously by sunscreen, by body oils, by bacteria, by everything that washes off thousands of people every hour. Public health regulations require that every gallon of water in every pool be filtered and chemically treated on a continuous cycle. You cannot turn off the pumps when the park closes and just let the water sit. Stop circulation for long enough and the chemistry of the water breaks down. Stop it even longer and you have a public health event, so the pumps run constantly. They pull water from the pools through underground surge tanks, push it through industrial sand filtration beds, run it past automated chemical dosing systems that measure water chemistry in real time and inject chlorine or acid as needed, then push it back through pressurized return lines to the top of the slide towers and into the lazy river jets, every hour of every operating day. And even during the off-season, heating elements in the pipes prevent freezing, and the filtration systems run periodic maintenance cycles to prevent stagnation. This invisible infrastructure is the most expensive machine you own, and most of your guests will never know it exists. Water itself, the actual commodity the business runs on, is a cost that surprises almost everyone who looks at this business for the first time. A medium-sized outdoor water park holds somewhere between 1.5 million and 3 million gallons of water across all its features, and that water is not a static resource. It is being lost constantly every single operating day, through 3 mechanisms. The first is evaporation. Hot summer temperatures and wind shear across large open pool surfaces evaporate between 10,000 and 30,000 gallons per day at a busy park. The second is splash out. Every slide landing, every wave surging across a pool, every guest climbing out of a lazy river takes water with it onto the concrete deck. That water drains away. It doesn't go back into the system. At a park running hot on a peak Maybraid, sir, splash-out losses alone can run another 15,000 to 40,000 gallons. The third is backwashing. Cleaning the sand filtration beds requires running water backward through them to flush out accumulated debris. That water gets discharged into the municipal sewer system. Another 5,000 to 20,000 gallons daily. To replace all of it, the park is constantly drawing fresh municipal water. And municipal water is not free. Neither is the sewage charge on all the water discharged. On top of raw water costs, there is a continuous supply expense for the chemicals that keep the water safe. Liquid chlorine, muriatic acid for pH control, and aluminum-based coagulants bind suspended particles together so the filters can catch them. A certified pool operator is required to physically test and log water chemistry every 2 to 4 hours throughout the operating day. Fail one of those tests and a state health inspector can order you to close the affected pool immediately. Close the wave pool on a Saturday afternoon in July, and you've just told the family that drove 90 minutes and paid $300 for the day that the main attraction is unavailable. If water is expensive, electricity is catastrophic. A water park consumes more electrical energy than a comparably sized dry theme park. The reason is physics. Moving millions of gallons of water vertically, from ground level up to the top of a 60-foot slide tower, requires enormous amounts of mechanical energy. The pumps that do this are running at full capacity for 10 to 12 hours a day, every operating day of the season. Wave generators alone are industrial machines. Creating consistent waves across a large pool requires giant air blowers, each powered by a motor drawing 100 horsepower or more, firing in timed sequences throughout the day. Add to that the air conditioning for food service areas, commercial kitchen equipment running at full blast during peak lunch hours, automated ticketing systems, outdoor lighting for evening operations, and server infrastructure for security camera and park management software. What makes this particularly punishing is how commercial electricity is billed. Utility providers charge not just for total energy consumed, but also for peak demand, the highest rate of power drawn during peak grid hours. Water parks run their heaviest equipment during hot afternoon hours, which are also when regional electricity rates are most expensive. You pay a premium for power at exactly the moment you need it most. Industry estimates place electricity costs for large outdoor parks at 15 to 25% of total operating expenses. On a $10 million budget, that is $1.5 to $2.5 million a year, just in electricity. The single largest line item in a water park's operating budget is not electricity, it is not water, it is not even debt service, it is people. A medium to large outdoor water park in the United States employs somewhere between 200 and 500 workers on a peak operating day. The largest category is lifeguards, the most labor-intensive element of the entire operation. Unlike a roller coaster, where one trained operator can manage a full train of passengers, water parks require one certified lifeguard for every defined zone of every water feature every hour the water is open. A wave pool alone might require between 10 and 20 lifeguards on active rotation at any given moment, and these guards cannot simply watch for an entire shift without breaks. Industry safety standards require lifeguards to rotate off surveillance positions every 20 to 30 minutes to prevent visual fatigue and maintain alertness. That means you need multiple guards per zone to keep the coverage continuous. The staffing math compounds quickly. A large regional park may need 3,000 to 7,000 labor hours just to cover a single 10-hour operating day. And the challenge is not just cost, it is supply. Qualified lifeguards are teenagers and young adults in high demand during the same narrow summer window, when every competing park in your region is also trying to hire them. Parks routinely open the season understaffed, which forces difficult choices between closing attractions, reducing revenue, or cutting safety margins, which creates liability. Beyond lifeguards, you need maintenance technicians, food service workers, parking gate staff, sanitation crews, security personnel, and a management team that stays year-round for off-season operations, insurance, regulatory filings, and capital planning. Payroll in the water park industry typically accounts for 30 to 40% of total operating expenses. On a park generating $10 million in annual revenue, that is $3 to $4 million a year. Before the park has paid for a single gallon of water or a single kilowatt of electricity. Now, before we get into how the money actually comes in, there is one more cost category that deserves its own conversation, because underestimating it has ended careers and bankrupted businesses. Safety is not a line item, safety is the business. The standard for lifeguard surveillance in professional U.S. water parks is something called the 10-20 Protection Rule, developed by Jeff Ellis and Associates, one of the leading aquatic safety organizations in the country. The rule says a lifeguard must be able to visually scan their entire assigned zone within 10 seconds and reach any guest in distress to begin emergency response within an additional 20 seconds. That is the baseline. Every zone, every guard, every shift. To verify compliance, park operators run what are called vigilance awareness drills, where management places a weighted mannequin designed to sink in a pool somewhere in an active guest area without warning, and measures how long it takes the lifeguard to spot it. Fail too many of these, and your insurance underwriter starts asking questions. And then there is the insurance itself. Commercial liability insurance for a water park, covering guest injuries, property damage, and the range of legal claims that come from operating in a public environment with complex machinery and large numbers of people, runs between $200,000 and $500,000 annually for a mid-sized park. That is the baseline for a park with no incidents on record and a clean safety history. If your park experiences a serious injury or a fatality, that number does not stay where it is. Underwriters reassess. Premiums spike. In the most serious cases, coverage is declined entirely, at which point operating the park is legally impossible. This is what happened at Action Park in Vernon, New Jersey. The park opened in 1978 and developed a reputation through the 1980s and 90s for dangerous conditions. Rides that were poorly designed, inadequately maintained, and supervised by undertrained staff. Injuries accumulated. Lawsuits accumulated. By the early 90s, liability insurance costs had become unsustainable, and the park was forced to begin closing attractions one by one. By 1996, the original park shut completely and its owner filed for bankruptcy. The more recent case is Schlitterbahn. In August of 2016, a 10-year-old boy named Caleb Schwab was killed on the Verrückt waterslide at Schlitterbahn's Park in Kansas City, Kansas. The Verrückt was a 17-story slide marketed as the tallest in the world, built without adequate independent engineering review. Wrongful death settlements eventually totaled nearly $20 million, paid across multiple defendants. Criminal indictments followed. The brand never recovered, and within a few years the family had sold off its properties. One accident, nearly $20 million in settlements alone. That figure does not include legal fees, regulatory fines, or the years of reduced attendance that follow any nationally publicized incident. Safety is not a cost to be minimized. It is the condition under which the entire business is permitted to exist. If you've been keeping a mental tab, we are now several $1 million into annual operating costs before we have sold a single ticket. Let's talk about how the revenue actually works. Speaking of what makes this business tick, If you're finding this breakdown useful, hit the subscribe button and give the video a like. It genuinely helps bring more of this content your way. The entry point is the gate. Day tickets at US water parks currently run between $40 and $80 for adults at most regional parks, with children's tickets running somewhat less. On a peak day with, say, 4,000 guests, not an unusually high number for a regional park on a hot Saturday, that is between $160,000 and $320,000 in gate revenue alone. But the people who understand this business do not think of gate revenue as profit. They think of it as the cost coverage mechanism. Gate tickets pay the baseline costs, debt service, core utilities, the minimum staffing level required to run the park safely. Profit is built on what guests spend after they walk through the gate. This is why the food is so expensive. A fountain soda at a water park costs between $5 and $7. The ingredients in that cup, syrup, carbonated water, ice, cost the park somewhere between 25 and 50 cents. The gross margin on a fountain drink approaches 95%. French fries, funnel cakes, nachos, pizza by the slice. Everything on the concession menu is designed around the same principle. Low ingredient cost, high captive price, sold to guests who cannot leave the property without losing their spot in the park, and who, after several hours of physical activity in summer heat, are genuinely hungry and thirsty. Parking, at $15 to $20 per vehicle, is roughly 95% margin since the lot is already built. Locker rentals, automated and cashless in most modern parks, generate a steady stream of $8 to $25 per unit throughout the day. Bonus, shaded structures with seating, sometimes equipped with a small refrigerator and a ceiling fan, rent for $150 to $500 per day and cost almost nothing to operate once constructed. They are the highest margin real estate in the park. Season passes are the crown jewel of the revenue model. A family season pass typically runs between $250 and $450. A season pass sale in January provides off-season cash flow, locks in attendance before summer begins, and statistically results in higher in-park spending per visit, because pass holders feel free to spend at the concession stand when they are not tallying the day's total cost. When you blend all of these together, gate admission, food and beverage, parking, lockers, cabanas, merchandise, season passes and group bookings, a well-run park can reach a total per capita spend of between $70 and $120 per guest. On 4,000 guests a day, that is between $280